A tree will be known by its fruit. Hey, and welcome to The Whole Truth, where I am taking you through the entire Bible from Genesis all the way to Revelation, and we are not skipping anything. If that sounds good to you, reach down and hit the subscribe button below, grab your Bibles, turn them open to 2 Samuel chapter 23, and find verse 8 as we finish up this nearly last chapter of 2 Samuel, as David is nearing the end of his life. King David in Israel is nearing the end of his life, and we get this list of names, mighty men of David, and some of the great accomplishments that they did. I want to be clear from the upfront that I am not a Hebrew scholar. I have been through some very little as I could, and get through in seminary some Hebrew classes, but I do not do well with these names. And I'm going to try my very best. And I know that you're going to be kind and gracious and patient with me as I try to read through some of these names. The point is not whether or not I can pronounce the name correctly. The point is what these men were doing. And then when you begin to think that this is what David produced, I will call your attention to this. If you've been with me in this study, do you remember when David was run out of the kingdom by King Saul? And he went to a cave. The cave was called Adullam. When David was, first of all, let me back up before we say that. Remember when David faced Goliath, it was because all of the men were trembling. Remember when David was at the cave that these men came to him, they were in despair and they were indebted and they were distraught. They came as men who were broken. And then when we get to the end of David's life, this is what David's leadership produced. And that is what I believe we can learn from when we think about our leader, who is Christ, and what he is producing in us. Oh, it's going to be a really cool study today. There's some study notes available for you on this very video. I've been doing these since Joshua. I've done books, every book of the Bible until now. If you open up a Bible and you see Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, and so on, all of those books we have done until now. But in the book of Joshua, I began doing study notes. And all of those study notes that accompany these videos are available for free on my website. Go over to thewholetruthbiblestudy.com or pastorjustinwalker.com. Either will take you to the same place. So pastorjustinwalker.com, and then go to the study library, 2 Samuel, and scroll down until you see chapter 23 and verse 8. It's 8 through 39 today. We'll finish up. It's the second video, the second section of 2 Samuel chapter 23. So I hope you'll go grab those notes. They're free. It's a free resource available to you. Use them with your Sunday school class. Use them at home. If you're blessed by that and you want to support the ministry, I would love if you would do that. It's going to take you over to Patreon, and you're going to see ways to support the channel there and also on the website. But I promise you, the goal, and you'll be able to see that, the goal is to create quality content through teaching through the Bible, and a resource, a free online resource for you to be able to use. I'm not trying to pressure you to come and give to the channel or give to the ministry. That's not the goal. The goal is that you would actually understand the Bible. That's what I want. I want when you come to these chapters, you say, what in the world? What is this? That you would be able to come here to the whole truth, and you'd be able to find a resource and find some help, and that the Holy Spirit would speak through these videos. I pray that the Holy Spirit would speak through these videos, and that you would learn something from the Bible, that God would open up his word to you, and that he would open up you to his word. That's my prayer for you. So go grab those study notes. They're free. Just go to the study library, pastorjustinwalker.com. We're going to pick up in verse 8 right now. I hope that you grabbed your Bible and you're doing this with me. Let's be patient. Remember what I said. Not so great at the Hebrew, but we're going to try this. It's not straight Hebrew, but I'm just saying the names can be tough. These are the names of the mighty men of David, whom David had: Josheb, Bashebeth, the Tachmonite, chief among the captains. He was called Adino, the Esnite, because he had killed 800 men at one time. And after him was Eleazar, the son of Dodo, the Ahohite, one of the three mighty men of David when they defied the Philistines, who they were gathered there for battle. And the men of Israel had retreated. And in verse 10, he arose and attacked the Philistines until his hand was weary, and his hand stuck to the sword. And the Lord brought about a great victory that day, and the people returned after him only to plunder. And after him was Shammah, the son of Agi, the Hararite. The Philistines had gathered together into a troop there, where there was one piece of ground full of lentils. And so the people fled from the Philistines, but he stationed himself in the middle of the field, defended it, and killed the Philistines. And so the Lord brought about a great victory. Let's just pause there before I continue to embarrass myself through trying to read some of these names. But I want you to pay attention to what we're seeing. Even in the beginning of this, we're named these mighty men of David. And the things that we're seeing from these mighty men of David, we see things like they face overwhelming odds. When others retreat, they stand. They even fought completely alone when it was necessary. And notice that through these mighty men, God brought great victory. These were the distraught and the distressed and the despaired men that came to David at the cave. These were the men that trembled once when they faced Goliath, and they had God do great works through them. So here's what I would tell you. This is one of the things that God produces in us. This is one of the things that the good leader, Christ, who is our leader, what a good leader, what a good king produces in us. And here it is. He produces courage. Even when the odds are insurmountable, even when the task is impossible, even when we have to look at it and say, there is no way that I can do this. If I looked at my own strength, tell me what man can defend a field all by himself against all of an army? Tell me the greatest fighter that you know, the greatest man in battle that you know. Can he defend himself against an entire army of people? Only God could do such a thing in a man. One man fought until his hand froze to the sword. He's like he was holding the sword and fighting so long that when he got done fighting, they couldn't get his hand pried off of the sword. He was like stuck to the sword. Only God could strengthen a man to fight that long. When I was a teenager, I was in karate. And to get our black belt, we had to fight 10 rounds in a row. And each round was a fresh person, and they ascended in belt rank. In other words, they ascended in degrees. So you started with of the 10 people who were in the class, the sensei would arrange them to say and this was a full contact style of karate. The only thing that wasn't allowed was punching to the face. So we're not talking about like point fighting, punch, oh, point, stop. It wasn't like that. I'm talking about full on, like, I think it was 2-minute rounds. And so you've got a 2-minute round maybe it was 1-minute round, whatever it was, but you had to fight one guy, and then he went and sat down. The next guy came up, you had about 10 seconds, and then bam, you got to fight the second. He's fresh. And then they're ascending in their ability. I watched. I didn't get my black belt. I did get my brown belt, and I had to do that 5 times. It was 5 fights for a brown belt, but it was 10 fights for a black belt. I watched as others did that, and they would be drenched in sweat and sometimes blood. They would just be drenched in sweat as they would be done with that fight. Their gi, the white robe thing, their gi would be all kind of open and slung around, and they would just look like death. They would just look defeated when they would get to the end of that. And the last person who would fight would be the sensei, the teacher of the class was the last one. And he would tell you, the goal is not that you, after 9 rounds of fighting, that you beat him, but the goal is that you do not quit. I say that to say that's 10 minutes. I've seen boxing matches that were, say 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is. And those guys look like death. They've been worn. Can you imagine the guy that's holding a sword for so long that his hand is frozen to the sword, and he's defending, whether it's the king's honor or the king's land or his people or whatever it is. These are the mighty men. This is what David produced. This is what God will produce in you. Courage to face the impossible task. Courage to do the thing that you know you don't have the strength to do on your own. Okay, let's read the next section now. It's 13 through 17. Then 3 of the 30 chief men went down at harvest time and came to David at the cave of Adullam, and the tribe of the Philistines encamped in the valley of Rephaim. And David was then in the stronghold, and the garrison of the Philistines was then in Bethlehem. And David said with longing, "Oh, that someone would give me a drink of water from the well of Bethlehem, which is by the gate." And so the 3 mighty men broke through the camp of the Philistines, drew water from the well of Bethlehem that was by the gate, and took it and brought it to David. And nevertheless he would not drink it, but he poured it out to the Lord, and said, "Far be it from me, O Lord, that I should do this. Is this not the blood of the men who went in jeopardy of their lives?" Therefore he would not drink it. These things were done by the 3 mighty men. So we see this picture, this thing happens where apparently there's these Philistines that are in Bethlehem. David had to go down into the stronghold. So he's literally surrounded by his men. And he's in the stronghold, surrounded in a fortified area. And he says, "Oh, that I could get a drink from Bethlehem. Oh, that I could have a drink from Bethlehem." This is somewhere in his life, this is happening. Whether it was at the time when he was at the cave of Adullam the first time, or if this is another time. And I didn't dig too much into that to try to get that answer, but that's not the point, because the point that we see is actually these 3 men who became some of the mighty men of David. And so David says out loud, just in his weary state, he says, "Oh, that I could have a drink of water from Bethlehem, from Bethlehem's well." 3 men heard this, and they gathered up and they went to the well. They broke through, they fought Philistines, broke through, and they got water out of that well. And they brought, can you imagine when David's sitting there and they bring him this canteen of water, and he's like, what is this? And they go, "That's from Bethlehem." And they're beat up and they're bruised, and they've been on this excursion to go and get the water for David. Now David does something. If David had just taken that and drank it in that moment, it would almost have the picture of like a celebrity who's like, "I only want blue M&Ms in my green room," or something like that. That would almost be like the picture, like there's water available in other places, but I want that water, and somebody go get me that water. But that's not what happened. David just said, "Oh, that I would have it." These men wanted to please David so bad that they went and they got water from that well. And David, he's not like being a jerk and pouring it out. He pours it out before the Lord. He literally says the thing that he was longing for that's now right in front of him, the thing that has some great value, he pours it out before the Lord. And he says, "Oh Lord, how could I casually take this? These men put their lives in jeopardy for this. I can't just casually drink this and indulge in this." And so instead, he gives it to the Lord, because the Lord is the one who strengthened those men to even win in that battle. Here's what I would tell you. A good leader, and our Christ is the best leader, produces loyalty. Loyalty. Not just courage, but then loyalty. This is one of the things that's always, there's some others kind of teeing off on this right now too, making memes and little videos and things like that. But it is an interesting fact. Imagine with me those who saw Jesus resurrected and then saw Jesus ascend. And then those same men, those same apostles are tortured for their faith. And yet they never would give up on their faith. They would never give up on this, what others are accusing them of, saying that they're lying, saying that they're making this story up. Can you imagine that the first apostle dies for this cause? The second apostle dies for this cause. The third, the fourth apostle dies for this cause. The word is getting around that the apostles are literally dying. I mean, Peter's, what we hear from church history is that Peter was crucified upside down. Crucifixion was already awful enough, and he was crucified upside down because he said he wasn't worthy to be crucified like Christ. And so they turned the cross, he had him turn the cross upside down and crucify him upside down. My friends, why would anyone stick to that? Why would anyone be so loyal to that? If they were lying, if they were making it up, why not just denounce Christ and move on with their lives and go, okay, that didn't work. That plan didn't work out. But that's not how it went, did it? As a matter of fact, throughout all of history, we can see those who are so courageous for the Lord that they give their lives for the Lord, that they lay their own wants, their own desires, and their own benefit down, and they take up their cross and follow after him. That's what the Lord wants in you, and that's what he'll produce in you. You might say, I don't know that I'm there yet today. Well, I know this. If you stick with Christ, he'll take you there. All right, now look, let's finish this thing up in verse 18 through 23. We got two more sections here. Now Abishai, the brother of Joab, the son of Zeruiah, the chief of another three, he lifted his spear against 300 men and killed them and won a name among these three. Was he not the most honored of three? Therefore he became their captain. However, he did not attain the first three. Benaniah, the son of Jehoiada, the son of a valiant man from Kabzeel, who had done many deeds, he had killed 2 lion-like heroes of Moab. He also had gone down and killed a lion in the midst of a pit on a snowy day, and he killed an Egyptian, a spectacular man. The Egyptian had a spear in his hand, and so he went down and killed him with a staff, wrestled the spear out of the Egyptian's hand, and killed him with his own spear. These things Benaniah the son of Jehoiada did, and won a name among 3 mighty men. He was more honored than the 30, but he did not attain the first 3, and David appointed him over his guard. And so here we see again that these men, they're recognized for their strength. They're these mighty men, and they're recognized for the strength of what they did. I mean, you see Abishai, the brother of Joab, you see what we've not heard this before, but we hear here that he's killed 300 men. Y'all, 300 men. This is a mighty feat that he has done. These are Philistines who have picked on Israel for all of these years, who have fought with Israel for all of these years. And now Abishai, he goes in and fights against these Philistines and kills 300 of these Philistines. Things that should have happened years ago. They should have driven out these Philistines years ago, but they didn't. And then you get this next guy, Benaniah. There's 2 lion-like men. In other words, super powerful, big, strong men. And he kills them. In talking about that, let's go ahead and talk about the fact that on a snowy day, he ended up fighting a lion and killed an actual lion. And then he goes down and there's this big, burly, specimen of a man and of Egyptian man. And Benaniah also killed that man. So over and over again, you see the feats of what these men will do. So they're courageous men, they're loyal men, and they are strong men. What the king produced was strong men. That is what Christ will produce in you. He will produce strength. Where does my strength come from? Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Christ will give you the strength to do what you didn't think that you were able to do. Not only do we look at a task and say, that task might be impossible, but how often do we look at something and say, I don't think I can do that. I can't take any more. There's that old saying where people say, oh, well, God won't give you more than you can handle. Yes, he does. He often gives you more than you can handle. So you will get to a place that you depend on him and his strength. And then all will know. This is like Gideon and his army. The army was too big. God doesn't get any glory. God needed the army to be shrunk. Paul said it this way, in your weakness, you are made strong. In your weakness, his strength is seen. And it's glorified because now it's not, oh, well, I did so. It's like the idea if you've got somebody that's got millions of dollars and they go over and buy a house and buy an investment property for a couple of $100,000, not much of a feat. You're like, okay, you just invested your money that way. But if you look at somebody who didn't have any money whatsoever, was broke, and then they did something, they, invested in some way, or they started some business or whatever, and then they go and pay cash for a couple of $100,000 house, you would go, whoa, what a thing that they just did. Even more so when somebody does something like that and you have to say, look what God just did in them. You see, Christ will produce strength in you. And there's one more thing I want to show you. Round out the chapter with me, verse 24, and let's get through the end of the chapter. Asahel, the brother of Joab, was one of the 30. Elhanan, the son of Dodo of Bethlehem, Shema, the Haradite, Elika, the Haradite, Helez, the Paltite, Ira, the son of Ikesh, the Tekoite, Abiezer, the Anathothite. You could see how hard that would be to say. All right, keep going with me. Mabune, the Hushathite, Zalman, the Ahohite, Maharai, the Netophathite. Sorry, y'all, I warned you I'd butcher them. Verse 29, I'm sticking with it. Heleb, the son of Bana, the Netophathite, Attai, the son of Ribai, from Gibeah of the children of Benjamin, and Benaniah, Parathonite, Hadai from the brooks of Gash, Abi Albon, the Arbathite, Asmaveth, the Berhamite, Eliabah, the Shalbanite, of the sons of Jeshan, Jonathan, Shema, the Hararite, Aham, the son of Sharar, the Hararite. If you're sticking with me, I'm proud of you right now. Verse 34, Eliphat, the son of Ahashbai, the son of Maachathite, Eliam, the son of Ahithophel, the Gilonite, Hezray, the Carmelite, Pararay, the Arabite, Gaul, the son of Nathan, Zobah, Bani, the Gadite, Zalak, the Ammonite, Naharai, the Barathite, armor bearer of Joab, the son of Zariah, Ira, the Ithrite, Garib, the Ithrite, and Uriah, the Hittite, 37 in all. Whew. Did anybody else feel like they were at a really bad graduation when the announcer didn't know how to say the names? That's what I felt like. Anyways, we're going to pretend that didn't just happen. You know what? I'm committed to we're not skipping anything. So here we go. I'm not skipping anything. That being said, there's one last point that I would make for you, which is this. This long list of names apparently matters. Here's what I would say to you. God remembers what men forget. You know, Solomon, when he's speaking when he's writing Ecclesiastes, he's like, no one's going to remember you. No one, he's like, vanity of vanity, says the preacher, all is vanity. We're all going to the same place. We're all going to die. And he's like, I've tried everything. I've tried laughter and myrrh, partying. No, nothing. I've tried to get married to women. Not fulfilling. I've tried to build cities, not fulfilling. I've tried gardening and vineyards, not fulfilling, not fulfilling, not fulfilling. We're all going to the same place. You can make all the money you want to make. You can develop all you want to develop. You can have all the trips you want to have. You can travel all you want to travel, and you will never feel all the fulfillment, because here's the deal. We're all going to die. And then this is what Solomon was saying. He's like, then what? The next generation, they're going to forget you. I mean, no matter how great of a person you were, you get down the line and listen, life goes on, and the next generation and the next generation and the next generation, just by the time you get 2 generations away, you're probably even hardly remembered at all. I mean, do you know the first, middle, and last name of your great-grandmother? And if you say you do, how about your great-great-grandmother? I mean, you get a couple of generations away, and do you even remember? Here's what I would point out to you. That's because that's from man's side. We forget. But God doesn't forget. And he says, what you do in secret, he rewards openly. God remembers your name. God knows your name. He knows the very hairs that are on your head. He knows the battles that you have faced. He knows the things that you have done in his name. So even if you've given a glass of water in his name, he knows it, and he will bless because of it. You see, your faith is in the great leader who doesn't forget the things that you've done. All right, my friends, we are moving on tomorrow. Forgive the names, but we don't have a list of names tomorrow. It's a really cool story tomorrow. It's 2 Samuel chapter 24, and we will finish out the book of 2 Samuel then.